We are used to new scenes being released from movies previously filmed that we hadn't seen, director's cuts, the Snyder cut, things like that. But sometimes films change for very different reasons. It doesn't necessarily require George Lucas. We have an instance of that. In China, imported films are often altered to show that law enforcement, those on the side of justice, always trumps the villain. Well, what does that mean? They would literally edit out and change the way movies end to change the message of the movie. One example of that is that the 1999 film by David Fincher, this Fight Club, originally ends with, by the way, this is a spoiler alert, but it came out in 1999. If you were gonna watch it, you'd watch it, okay? Ends with the narrator killing his split personality, Tyler Durden. With the female lead, Marla Singer, he then watches all the buildings explode outside the window and collapse, suggesting Tyler's anarchist plan to destroy consumerism is in the works. Okay, so that was, I think for a lot of people, a very shocking end to the film. You probably didn't expect that. It's violent, it's revolutionary, all of that. If you watched it here. If you watch it in China, at least on certain sources, that is not the ending that you got. In the version on the Chinese streaming site Tencent Video, the explosion scene has been removed, and instead, text comes up to explain what happens at the end. It's almost like the Breakfast Club, but like for state propaganda. So instead of that explosion scene, you got this saying, through the clue provided by Tyler, the police rapidly figured out the whole plan and arrested all criminals, successfully preventing the bomb from exploding. After the trial, Tyler was sent to a lunatic asylum, receiving psychological treatment. He was discharged from the hospital in 2012. So I guess he's still alive, and I feel like I know a little bit more about his life, but that's a little bit depressing, hardly dramatic. And also demonstrates not just a willingness to subvert artistic freedom to prop up the messaging of the state, but a little bit of a mystery of the movie. Tyler was the fictional guy. How did he go to the mental hospital? Think about that. Anyway, it's unclear at this point if the ending was altered out of self-censorship by the streaming site or by government order. Tencent Video declined to comment, I think understandably. A source familiar with the matter said the film was edited by the copyright owner and then approved by the government before it was sold to streaming sites for distribution. And Disney, which owns the film's production company, 20th Century Fox, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Don't expect Disney to weigh in on anything having to do with Chinese censorship or ending changes or anything like that. But some people in China are not happy with these changes, especially if, as many apparently were, they had access to pirated copies or copies that had the actual ending. One person on the microblogging site Weibo said, there is no point watching this film without that scene. I mean, it's still entertaining, I guess, in some ways, but it kind of cuts out the message. Now, I'm not saying you should just take at face value everything that happens in these movies. Plenty of alt-right fascists in the US have drawn all the wrong conclusions from movies like Fight Club, as well as things like The Matrix. But anyway, like you do have to allow a little bit of freedom for artists to tell the sort of tale that they want, especially if it's about a reflection of something that's actually happening in that society. So for instance, in 2003, the Hong Kong film Naked Ambition was released in the mainland. The original story was about the rise of poor porn stars. It was edited into one about how Hong Kong and Chinese police worked together to crack down on the porn industry. Well, at that point, why are you even playing the movie if you're gonna directly undercut it? And instead of making it something that might inspire people to feel a little bit of compassion or empathy for people who are often abused and ignored, vilified, you instead make it about, yeah, we locked him up. Well, that's great. I don't know. Personally, I think in that way, if you want to go down this road, you can ruin pretty much everything. For instance, many people classically have watched Star Wars: A New Hope and found the triumph of the rebel band over that dastardly empire pretty inspirational. But what if when Luke goes to fire that proton torpedo, instead of blowing up the Death Star, it just fades to black and you get this message. Luke Skywalker and his band of rebel scum were foiled in their terroristic attack on the invincible Death Star. The thermal exhaust port was in no way a design flaw. Anyone saying otherwise is a scruffy looking nerf herder. The rebels were captured and will spend the rest of their lives in re-education activities in the spice mines of Kessel. They have denounced their former comrades with smiles on their faces. Kind of dramatic, but I don't know, it just doesn't have the same flavor. So anyway, look, I'm not gonna be able to get through to propagandists or censors in China any more than apparently I can get through to the right, who actually does want to do the same sorts of things that aren't here. But I don't know, to the extent that you can fight for artistic freedom, we benefit from these things. And we don't, by the way, we don't have to enjoy all of it. We don't have to like the message of every movie. There's plenty that are bad from my point of view, but that doesn't mean that they can't have value for someone. I don't have to like the God is Not Dead series. I can just choose, as most people have, to never watch it.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.